Thank you. So what a morning. I chatted with several of you and really excited about all the speakers, all the information that we've gathered so far this morning. And so anyways, moving on, I would now like to take the opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker on digital literacy, and that is Elaine Carpenter. And Elaine brings more than 30 years of experience in the corporate, nonprofit, and philanthropic sectors. She currently serves as Vice President of Business Development for Zero Divide, a mission-driven consulting organization. Prior to this, Elaine was the Director of Technology Programs and Policy at the Children's Partnership, where she oversaw the development of technology immersion programs designed to help and close the digital achievement gap. Elaine has also served as the Chief of Staff of the United States Telecom Association in Washington, D.C., and worked for 18 years as Vice President and Director of Corporate Communications, Planning and Public Policy at Alliant Communications, which is a mid-sized telecom company headquartered in Lincoln, Nebraska. She was an active participant in crafting key provisions of the 1996 Telecom Act and related proceedings at the Federal Communications Commission. Elaine is a graduate of the University of Nebraska and has served on the board of directors of more than 30 organizations, including 3 hospitals, numerous blue ribbon committees, and local, state, and national advisory boards. Please join me in welcoming Elaine Carpenter.
Did I write that? That sounded sort of impressive. First of all, let me just start by saying thank you to the State Technology Office and to the other sponsors for giving us the chance to be here today. It's just great to see so many old friends and to see so many new faces as well in the audience. And you know, as we've heard from Ann and the other panel members, we really have done a lot to advance deployment of broadband in the United States. And I'm really happy to have the chance to represent Zero Divide, to help move the conversation on a little bit away from just strictly deployment to digital literacy, meaningful use, and social inclusion. And I know we have covered a lot of this stuff on adoption, but it's really going to be the focus of my comments. Now, for those of you who don't know Zero Divide, we are a mission-driven consulting organization that stays true to our original Community Foundation mission of helping underserved communities realize the transformative powers of technology. We work to improve civic engagement, economic opportunity, and education. And I say our original philanthropic purpose because I really wanted to note that we actually preceded CETF and were created through the merger of the PAC-Bell merger. But today we work with businesses. I'm getting reminders. Today we work closely with foundations, government, and businesses to design technology-infused strategies and projects to build strong community leaders and strong communities. Now, for those of you who do know Zero Divide, and I think some of you do know us, you know that we were established in 1998 to close the digital divide in California. And that from the very beginning, we've always seen our challenge as being much broader. To make a lasting difference, we've always felt, we've believed that we must advance a process of social inclusion. Thus, our focus has never been strictly on technology, really, at all. It's really been about transformation and social outcomes. And that's the way we've sort of approached our mission as a foundation, and it's the way we're doing it today as a consulting organization. So given this focus and this perspective, the issues that we face today are just as stark, and the challenges that we face today are just as stark and as difficult as they were back when we were established. Because now, if we focus strictly on technology access, as everybody said, and I'll just restate it, we really have done a lot of narrowing of the digital divide. 90% or 70% of Americans have a broadband connection at home, and 90% of Americans have a mobile phone. 58% of these have a smartphone, and that's really pretty amazing and pretty quick. But these numbers, as has been pointed out, these numbers in the aggregate really do hide persistent disparities. Differences in technology access based on race and ethnicity have diminished over time, but differentials still exist and are strongly correlated to household income, age, educational attainment, disability, and Spanish-speaking preferences. The Pew Research Internet Project has great data on this. And so if you haven't looked at it, I encourage you to look at it, as well as the reports funded by CTF and Zero Divide by the Public Policy Institute of California. But anyway, back to the internet, to Pew, they have found that while 4% of college graduates don't use the internet, only 4%, actually 41% of those without a high school degree are still offline. And that's pretty stark yet. So for us, the digital divide encompasses a whole lot more than access to broadband and to a device. And we're really worried that these drastic differences in digital literacy and meaningful use continue to fuel disparities in health access and outcomes, in education and workforce opportunities, and in social and economic capital. Underserved communities today are just simply not receiving the benefits that better resourced communities are, and in fact, that most of us, frankly, take for granted. And the fact of the matter is, the digital divide is really just one manifestation of systemic injustices that show up under different names and different labels and under different headlines. Think for a minute about the achievement gap, about the health disparities that we're working to overcome, about the chronically unemployed, and about the pipeline to prison. These interrelated divides simply amplify one another, reinforce each other, and contribute to the widening gap that keeps underserved communities disconnected from the skills and resources they need to better their circumstances. So we've done a lot. We must pat ourselves on the back for that. But we really do need some really inventive, thoughtful policies and programs to increase digital literacy and make technology tools more culturally competent and relevant to the lives of underserved communities. And again, I do want to acknowledge, when I say we need to do more, I want to just say I want to build on that, all that's been done, especially, Anne, the stuff that you talked about, that NTIA has done. They seeded one of our projects and many more across the state and the nation that have really built a powerful foundation. CTF, the same as well. But yet we stand at what we think is really a critical juncture today. With the near ubiquity of mobile, the quickly changing social landscape, the rise in the networked economy, universal health coverage, and a committed technology sector, and our state's adoption of the Common Core, we are really poised now, I think, to overcome these divides and build stronger, more socially inclusive and healthy communities, and more effective schools for kids. But we really need to move swiftly. Time is moving quick. Time is moving fast. So we need to move quickly. We need to move together in order to make these strategies work. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the strategies that Zero Divide is pursuing. Not that we think we have the end all, but simply because maybe they'll serve as a foundation for some future discussions, and certainly happy to answer any questions you might have. Our first strategy has always been to work with the nonprofit sector and to really build their technology capacity. Community-based nonprofit organizations provide critical direct services to underserved communities, but many of them are missing the opportunities to use technology in ways that make their work easier, faster, and more impactful. That's why we work with funders and the cohorts of nonprofit leaders to enhance their technology infrastructure, their skills, and their strategy. This ensures that the increased capacity we build ripples out from their organizations to the lives of the people they serve. It's amazingly stark in contrast, having come from industry, to realize that we went through the business process re-engineering way back in the 90s so that we could take advantage of the productivity gains from technology. But when you look at the nonprofit sector, if you look at schools today, they're very woefully under-resourced in technology. So one of our strategies is to work to build these intermediary organizations, to build their capacity to then extend that out further. As an example, we're working to strengthen the tech capacity over 400 organizations that are serving across California, that are serving low-income people and communities of color with workforce training, wraparound educational services, and civic engagement. The Community Leadership Project, funded by the Hewlett, Irvine, and Packard Foundations, recognizes the important role that technology plays in building resilient and effective organizations, and we're delighted to be one of their partners and their TA providers to these organizations. And we're also building the tech capacity of the nonprofit hub organizations that are at the center of the California Endowment's place-based initiative. In many of these 14 sites, our work is with the hub organizations largely, but it extends out to all of the nonprofits that are a part of these hubs. And in many of these sites, we're actually helping organizations now, oftentimes youth, document through technology to conduct community research, to document the problems in their communities, to develop policies and use traditional as well as social media and digital media tools to advocate for changes that will make their communities, their schools, and their neighborhoods safer and healthier. Our second strategy, so that's the first strategy, working with nonprofits. Our second strategy for promoting social equity is to leverage the reach and trust of community anchor institutions to design programs at scale and to use them to develop meaningful and deeply, and to help these anchor institutions become more deeply engaged with their communities. And there are a lot of library folks here today and a lot of talk about libraries, and that's one of the projects I'm going to talk about too. And it is a program that it's a federally funded program that we're working with a group called OCLC. The program is called Health Happens in Libraries. We used kind of dovetailed on a name that the endowment was using. And it is designed to improve the public library's e-health services and the capacity of library staff to respond to their patrons' information needs regarding the Affordable Care Act. Take a minute here. In this program, we've provided online platforms. We've showcased the excellent work of libraries across the nation, and we've produced several webinars to stimulate an ongoing and ever-changing dialogue around the challenges of the Affordable Care Act, largely at first, of course, related to enrollment. We've been supported at every step of the way by incredibly knowledgeable subject matter experts from federal agencies as well as from the state and local libraries themselves. And I'd like to make a real particular call out here to the California State Library and Info people who provided their resources and served as strong partners in this endeavor. We think that this Health Happens in Library project has really served as a powerful bridge to scale and to translate and scale complex national information and making it locally relevant to individual libraries and communities. The ACA has been extremely complicated, and when you think about the challenges of enrolling people who've never had insurance before, just imagine the issues of explaining things like copays and deductibles, and having them not only have to understand these terms, which I oftentimes get confused in, and having them use a web portal that they've never maybe used before to actually research their information option or their insurance options and to enroll. And libraries have just really stepped up, as they always do, to this call. We recognize that this was likely going to happen. That's why we contacted and wrote this proposal, is that it's where people always go when they need help. They go to libraries to access the broadband and the tools and also the trusted resources. And we intend to build on this program. We're working with philanthropy across the nation, and we're working with our national partners, HHS and IMLS, to expand this program so that we can go much broader and deeper. While at the top of our list will be to continue working on such things as health literacy. It is really, truly remarkable how difficult it is for people who have not had insurance to try to even think about what it's like to get ready for a hospital visit, the importance of keeping that in visit, how to manage medications. It's all a whole host of things that today rely on technology. So we're really working especially on things like e-health records and web portals with hospitals as well. So we're excited about this project because a really cool thing about libraries that we like is the ability to target. So we can look at libraries. We were able to actually identify the libraries that had high populations of unenrolled people in insurance. So we could really target. The same will be true if we want to target a program for populations suffering from obesity, or communities where there's high populations of obesity, or that need smoking cessation programs. We're planning on developing pilot programs that we can roll out to these particular these community libraries so that they can be part of a broader place-based initiative. So moving on, because I know we are behind, I want to just talk a little bit about our third strategy, and that's really to work, our third strategy for social inclusion. And in this case, our goal here is to work hand in hand with government, with industry, and with healthcare providers to reduce the barriers to the adoption of e-health tools. This means working very early on in the development cycle to help make sure that the devices, the portals, the systems, the records are really meaningful, they're easy to use, and they're culturally relevant. An example of this, I'll just mention this one quickly, is a project we're doing funded by the Aetna Foundation. And in this one, we're actually working with faith-based organizations to develop faith-based organizations working in underserved neighborhoods. And we're really designing health and wellness texting programs that are delivered via text messages to African American women ages 19 to 55 who are at risk for heart disease and obesity. The text messaging campaign includes fitness reminders, inspirational messages, links to healthy recipes, and invitations to meet up with other church members to participate in local health and wellness activities. Now this sounds simple, and it may sound like, is this really about broadband and adoption and digital literacy? Well, for us it is, because again, we're really focused on outcomes, and we could really make technology start to change lives and include people and improve their health and wellness. We really think we're making a difference. And by the way, I thought, when we started working on this messaging program, to me it was just like, well, we'll just send out texts, right? But there's really quite a science and art that's been really rigorously designed, subject to a lot of requirements so that we can really produce the evidence so that this can be scaled, not only through the faith-based organizations, but through other local anchor institutions, and then connected to local healthcare clinics and hospitals that are in the safety net. So we're really proud of the work that we've been doing. These are just a few of the examples that we've been doing as we've carried on as a consulting organization. And we're really proud of the effort that and the results that we've been able to achieve. But our reach really is limited. Even with all of the partners that we have and the national programs that we've started, our reach is limited. And so I really want to echo what I've heard others say all today, is that we really need more collaborations, a lot more communications, and a lot more overlapping so that we approach these divides together and not in just isolated ways. It's the digital divide, as I mentioned, it's not just the digital divide, it is the achievement gap, it is the health divide, it is the unemployment divide. So as I leave you today, I would really just like to challenge you that in the programs that you design and in the policies that you write, I want you to incorporate the concepts of digital literacy and meaningful technology use and social impact in everything that you do. And really try to keep in mind the fact that, that there are many people for whom the system is failing. Most of us in this audience have dedicated our careers to increasing social equity, but we cannot do this without integrating our planning and design processes in ways that give voice to communities for whom technology access alone is not simply enough. We have amazing tools at our fingertips to change the world. Let's do it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. What inspiring words. And also, thank you so much for sharing the strategies that Zero Divide is following up on regarding digital access. So with that, we are now going to be moving to our second panel this morning. And so with that, I would like to go ahead and talk about who will be moderating that, and that will be Christina Gagne. And so Christina, and excuse me, looks like my notes got a little out of order. My apologies, Christina. Okay. Let's see. I really got out of order. I wonder if I dropped something over there. Oh, I put it at the bottom of my package, so here we go. So anyways, this morning, I'd like to present Christina Gagne. Christina is an intellectual property attorney and partner at Gagne Margrosian, LLP, a proud Californian. She began her interest in technology and politics while working on initiative campaigns and coordinating voter turnout in California for causes related to education. Christina also operates as CEO of Realpolitik, a political technology startup. She previously served as the Chief Information Officer of Mobilize.org, and again, I am so sorry. I believe it's a nonprofit organization, and I will just try and wing this, Christina. She has really been instrumental in really focusing on a lot of different initiatives that are really related to broadband, digital literacy, education, really has a passion for those things. She's definitely a truly technology person, and a truly, I think she said she is totally connected to her iPhone at all times, and a true technology geek. So Christina, I thank you so much for going ahead and moderating this panel, and with that, please come up, and if you could go ahead and introduce your panel members, that would be great.
Well, good morning, everybody. So I want to just sort of lay out some frameworks for what we're going to be discussing today. It's been great that we were able to discuss broadband and infrastructure, which is a critical part of making sure that all Californians are connected, as well as people throughout the United States. But now I want to turn to digital literacy. I think that the last speaker highlighted some of the key issues around digital literacy. Things like healthcare.gov. I mean, even when the technology was working, there's millions of people who don't know how to access it. Working on issues such as recidivism, so making sure people have the tools that they need if they're trying to transition into the workforce. That requires digital literacy skills. And then at a very basic level, digital literacy is cross-generational. There's a lot of misconceptions and miscommunications about who doesn't know how to use the internet and who does. And frankly, there are 14 and 15-year-olds that can play Angry Birds but can't put together a resume. There are college graduates that, they're great at using some tools, including social media tools, but they don't know how to navigate the internet to manage health or finance or the job process. There's also older people who, used to think that they'd be retiring and now have to re-enter the workforce or create for themselves an entirely new skill set to be able to manage their lives on and offline. So today I'm joined by a variety of experts who are working in both digital literacy, workforce development, and education to ensure that every Californian has meaningful access to the internet and the ability to use the tools that are online as well. So with that, I'll introduce each speaker as they are going to present their section. And first, I'm delighted to present Brenda Kempster, who is my partner in crime when it comes to digital literacy work in California. Brenda is the executive director of the Link Americas Foundation, which worldwide is one of the premier foundations focusing on digital literacy and ICT skills. Brenda has been the mastermind behind the iCalifornia campaign and also behind efforts in California to actually adopt the first digital literacy skills framework. We're the only state who has taken an approach to make digital literacy a priority, and we do that because of Brenda and her work throughout California and making sure that, as California goes, so does the rest of the nation, so now we need to focus on the rest of the nation. So with that, Brenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina, for the nice remarks, and we certainly are connected at the hip a lot on digital literacy, it seems, so it's an honor to be on your panel today. And I'm also very pleased to have workforce development and education sitting on the panel here because I have some challenges for you guys today at the end of the day. So Link Americas Foundation, as Christina mentioned, we've been in the digital literacy space for about, it doesn't seem possible, but almost 15 to 20 years now. And our mission as a foundation is technology advancing, or technology serving humanity with a very particular focus on advancing digital literacy. And the S in Americas is because our span is throughout the Americas, Americas from north to south. So everything that we look at in terms of tools development, applications, and so forth, just by nature in our DNA as a foundation, the platform has to be in English and Spanish, for example, for the Americas. So that actually serves very well in California too, because of the population linguistically that we have here, and culturally with the ties to the Americas. So we were brought in to the discussion on the executive order that you have heard referenced about 5 years ago, and asked by folks in the state at that time, can you help us take a look at how we develop a framework for digital literacy skills for California? So that individuals, would be able to use the internet from everything from finding work to managing their health and wellness that's mentioned here, to engaging them in civic society, whether that's at the state, the local, or the national level. And then, of course, in K-12 now, with the emphasis on career pathways and career technical education and so forth, digital literacy is just ingrained in all of these sectors. The framework, which bears mention, I think everybody picked it up in their packets as they come in this morning, and all of those that are online that do have the digital literacy skills to join us from afar this morning, the framework is a printoutable document on our linkamericas.org site. But it's important to know that digital literacy and access are not synonymous. There's a lot of talk out there that folks are providing digital literacy, and what they're doing is they're providing access, and individuals still, once they have that access, still need help and assistance with the next phase of the tools to how to use it. And that's been one of our biggest challenges, because particularly in a state like California that is high-tech, and businesses in the Silicon Valley that focus on technology development and so forth, it's really hard to have them understand that there's people out there that just don't know how to use this stuff. And so, as Christina and I found out, there's a big gap in the understanding of how significant it is to begin to look at really incorporating digital literacy into everything we put together, whether it's going to be ag applications or safety applications, as the first panel talked about today. So we're very much into that. So our foundation then, basically we've been working with Adelina's team at the department and with organizations around the state to come up with tools and applications that promote digital literacy. And we wanted to, from the very beginning, start projects that are scalable projects that can be replicated throughout the state, and for that matter across the nation and globally. And so we collaborated. Our first partners in the collaboration were the California State Library, which has been a great partner, as you've heard mentioned this morning, and Christina's team called TRAIL, which the company, the acronym is Technology, Resources, and Internet Literacy. And so collectively, about 3 years ago, we put together the first project in digital literacy resulting from the executive order, which was a pilot project initially with about 150 of the libraries, the 1,000 libraries or so throughout the state. And we asked librarians, what's the most important application that you need for us to get started on this journey? And they said, we need something that tells people how to get online to find a job. They said there's so many people walking into the library, they don't know how to use the internet effectively to do that kind of navigational thing that they need to use. They don't know how to do an online resume and submit it and so forth. And on top of that, whether they're a manager or looking for an executive position, or whether they want an entry-level position in retail like Walmart or McDonald's in that, They don't do paper applications anymore. They're going out there and people are asking for a job and they say, submit online. And so, how do you do that? So Job Scout became our flagship project, and it's in its third year now. And it is basically an online platform in Spanish and English that can be used via the web. They really are incredible geeks that build cool stuff. And they have adapted our Job Scout to Android and iOS and Spanish and English and all of this stuff. And the trail we see, the vision that Link America sees with the trail, we envision this discovery trail, and Job Scout is our first scout, and we envision lots of scouts on the trail, and people would then get the scout and use that scout to navigate to the destination that they want to get to, whether that's finding a job, whether that's signing up for the ACA or understanding health and wellness, whether that is, engaging civically and so forth. So that's where we want to go. So we're like I say, we scaled to the 1,000 libraries plus. We've embarked on school districts and so forth and workforce development centers. And our next frontier, so to speak, with this mission of developing cool tools are K-12 in the career areas and others. And also, we would love to engage the workforce development centers around the state into this notion and concept of moving to the new paradigm of a virtual one-stop, which is basically where we're at. So that's sort of my call to action for more collaboration and more projects in that regard. Our challenges, just in closing again, is basically what I mentioned at the beginning, a lack of understanding of the importance of digital literacy. We need more of this kind of discussion and dialogue and information to get out there. We also need to continue and to develop the tools and develop the applications so they do map and they're in alignment with the framework that we've developed. And they're not just sort of willy-nilly, because we have to remember that a lot of effort at the state level went into developing this framework so the skills map to global standards. If someone in California is getting digital literacy skills, they can be employed anywhere in the world because these standards are global. And so what is developed and put on the trail, so to speak, and provides there has to reinforce that they're getting to an outcome that we as a state have already decided is the way that we want to go. So, and then the last thing I'll say is that we need to develop these scalable projects with a tracking and data and analytics so that we can judge and evaluate if we're making progress, if the individuals using it are coming out with the proficiencies that we want them to have going in, and as a state, if we're moving the needle, if we're getting more workers, into the pipeline and more people engaged civically and so forth as a result of using the tools that we're providing. So that's where we're at.
Great, thank you, Brenda. It's now appropriate to transition to where many students first get their experience with the internet and learning life skills, and that's in the education context. There's been a lot of conversation about teaching kids how to code, but just even scaling back a bit and talking about what do kids actually know how to do on the internet besides play games on their phones. And that's kind of where some of the skill set stops. And so I'm really excited to introduce Thomas Adams, Ph.D. He's the Director of Curriculum Frameworks and Instructional Resources Division for the California Department of Education. I'd also like to note that he is also a product of the California education system. I have to give the UC a shout out, having graduated from UC Davis. So Thomas, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I think the one thing you have to keep in mind that this is an exciting time in terms of education. We've adopted the Common Core standards. We have the model school library standards. We have the next generation standards coming on. And in many respects, California education is rebooting itself in terms of what it wants our students to know and be able to do. What this means for digital literacy is that it has a prominent role. These standards were all written with the new environment that we all engage in terms of the digital one. one of the things I think everyone should realize is that when it came to the Common Core standards, the origins of it is not, contrary to some beliefs, was not with the Obama administration, but actually go back to the Bush administration, and actually they weren't directly involved. Who actually developed it were business leaders, university presidents, the National Governors Association, and the Council of Chief State School Officers. And it came about for the simple reason business leaders said, hey, people coming out of the K-12 environment are not ready to engage in the work environment as it is today. People who come out of the K-12 system, who go to universities, are not ready, do not have the necessary skill level to engage in first-year university demands. And so in that sense, and what was one of the things that they made sure were embedded in all this were digital literacy skills. So in that sense, we do have a very good set of standards that include that in there. Now let's keep in mind some things that what this really means. If we're going to go into a situation like this, it really means most of the learning is inquiry-based, or I like the term, like as you said earlier, discovery. But if you're going to discover something, you have to know what you're going to discover and how you're going to do that. You have to have a sense of what is the information that you're going to be using and what is good and what is bad, right? And you can only do that if you actually have someone teach you. You have that guide on the side, as we like to say, not the sage on the stage as I am here today, but the guide on the side that can actually make sure that you, as you go through this process, that you know how to evaluate the information that's there before you. Now, one of the things that we stress in the model school library standards is not only accessing information, right, that's getting that necessary infrastructure in there, but evaluating and analyzing information. And then, more importantly, I think, is organizing, synthesizing, creating, and communicating that information. That's where you go to the next level. Anybody can get on the computer and find dozens of resources, but until you can actually sort through it all and be able to explain which ones are good and why they should be part of your presentation or part of your study, you won't get very far. And then it's important that these are skills that cross all content areas and you actually take into the workforce. Now, one of the great things that is often asked when you apply for college is you have to write an autobiography, right? A nice little thing in terms of an application. However, that's not what Superintendent Tom Torlakson asked me to do on a daily basis. He asked me to get out, find all the relevant information, analyze it, and distill it to the point where he can actually understand what the issues are on that. That's the skill that all our students need. Now, what about this in terms of the new environment? Well, one of the things you have to keep in mind is, was mentioned earlier, were the various studies done about children and media access. If you look at now, in terms of children now from 0 to 8, 75% of them have access to mobile devices. They may not own it, but it may be their parents. The other thing to keep in mind is that has been growing steadily throughout the years. It was, if you look at terms of tablet ownership for these students in terms of their access to it, it was about 8% in 2011, and today it's 40%. So this just gives you a sense of how more and more they're growing up in this media environment. At the same time, if you look at teenagers and their use of media, 95% of teens report using the internet, and 3/4 of those report having broadband at home. So these are national studies. So in this sense, the real question for our education is how do we go about dealing with students who are in this environment? How do we make sure it's something that's part of their general education and not just something they do on their side? And this is why it's so important that we have the standards that we do that speak to this. Now, one of the things you want to keep in mind, though, is that online access doesn't mean, we have 1,000 flowers bloom and they all smell nice. I think the thing we want to keep in mind here is that there are issues of intellectual property that come up, the inappropriate use of resources to the point of plagiarism, and those are skills we have to teach our students. But the other thing to keep in mind is the overall the internet does what sometimes not every classroom teacher can do. It can provide a medium for exploration, for discovery of issues of particular interest of these students, and allows them to explore it in a manner they wouldn't have regularly. So one of the things I want to keep in mind then is in all of this, we have then this great K-12 environment with great standards. And earlier today, the issue of equity came up. You know, how is it that this is going to affect disadvantaged groups? Well, one of the things we do know is that when it comes to, and this is a Pennsylvania study, it said that when it came to student improvement, one of the best things you can have is a teacher librarian. It has the greatest impact on student test scores. It generally leads to rising reading scores for all students, and you end up with several student groups that usually fall into the achievement gap, such as Hispanic, Black, and those with IEPs or special ed students. They have remarkably better results if there's a school librarian. And it's really the school librarian that tends to be the hub of good technological development in California schools. However, I do have to say that this is where I have to hit a low note in my narrative. While policy is moving forward and aware of this, the California school system is not. We've gone through years of tremendous budget cuts, where extensive layoffs. And to give you a sense of this, if you take the number of teacher librarians, in 2000-2001, we had about 1,400 throughout the state. Today, we have 804. Okay, and now keep that in mind. That's 804 teacher librarians within 1,000 school districts and a total of 10,000 schools. So if we're going to, we can talk a lot about broadband access. We can talk about making sure that when we include computer adaptive testing, that we get rid of the Windows XPs and actually get something a little more up to date. One thing I do know is at least I can say when my daughter's school upgraded their computer lab, there weren't any Commodores to get rid of. I mean, so yeah, only a few of you would know that. But the point is that we also do have a personnel and teacher issue here in all of this. And so if we're going to move forward on this, we have in place many great tools, but in the end, you still need people, right? And so in that sense, we can't lead ourselves to believe that just because we put broadband access out there and we're improving, we have a great set of standards, and we have curriculum supporting that, we still need to have the people there to be the guides on the side. And so in short, I just want to say that when it comes down to it, people who will need these information literacy skills will need people like us to help them get there. So not only that they can be our equal, but so they can surpass us.
Great, thank you for your comments, Thomas. So we've talked a little bit about support networks and what needs to be there, whether that's technology or actual human capital in the schools to make sure that our students have digital literacy skills. But once people transition out of the education environment or they might find themselves at some time in their life needing to find work, our next speaker is dealing with people on the ground and making sure they have those skills. Edward Proctor is the Information Technology Chief with the Sacramento Employment and Training Agency. For some background on the agency, it's one of 49 local workforce investment areas in California. It's a collaboration between the city and county of Sacramento, and they focus on everything from connecting people to jobs, getting business owners the right people at the right time, and just helping the community in terms of economic development. So, Edward, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Christina. I think you said everything I was going to say. So. I've just got a few casual observations and words. I want to tell you a little bit about our business. I'm not going to drill down to it too much. One comment about what you said, Dr. Adams, about resources. We also operate 30 Head Start schools in Sacramento. Each one of those locations is wired with a T1 to our central facility and has the capability for high-speed internet access. They could be used for additional resources. But we can't just arbitrarily open them up for people to use. We have to have staff there. And a lot of them are in neighborhoods that might be a little bit on the shady side as well. So there's capacity available. The question is, how can we leverage it? How can we use that? So one other comment on digital literacy for youngsters coming out of high school. We've observed, and we through some of our business partners has observed, and this is not across the board, but people are growing up, 6th grade, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-years-old, using handheld devices, texting, etc. They don't talk to people anymore. They don't face-to-face to people. When they say bye, they say L8R for later. I do the same thing. And what that is beginning, we're seeing that that's beginning to roll over into when people apply for jobs. The point of this is that somehow we need to be sensitive to the fact that digital literacy and the use of technology is a wonderful tool, and it really empowers people, but we have to also train people that, and particularly young people, that when you transition to the marketplace, you have to know a new set of soft skills. You have to be able to interact with people, face-to-face conversations, exchanges, and there's some unpleasantries that come along with that too. And you don't learn these through texting. So that's just an observation. The internet's a wonderful thing. So digital literacy and high-speed internet access is absolutely essential and critical to the workforce environment today. I've been with SETA for 6 years. When I started, we had a system for managing our workforce operations that was very much brick and mortar based. And it was just focused on managing clients find jobs. We realized that it had a lot of inherent limitations, one of which was constrained to a physical location. And it missed a lot of, it didn't have a lot of capabilities that we also felt would be needed in the future. We were also starting to get into, some would say have gotten into, the significant unemployment situation. And during the peak of that, we would see over 50,000 people per year coming into our brick and mortar facilities begging for work and help. So I'm sort of getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but today we operate 5 America's Job Centers in Sacramento, and we're funding 8 training centers in Sacramento. All of those facilities are high-speed internet access to our central facility for internet, and they all provide basic computer literacy skills, computer orientation skills, and in some cases we do go beyond that a little bit and teach people how to use the computers for surfing the internet, looking for jobs, frequently looking for jobs. We also offer job counseling services, job readiness services, and personal assessment services at the job centers. Today, this year, we project over 37,000 job seekers to walk through our doors. Those are unique individual job seekers. That does not count multiple visits per person, and there's a lot of those. And we also assist over 4,000 employers in California to match jobs that they have with job seekers. So 4 years ago, SETA realized that because of a number of the shortcomings of the system that we had and the growth in unemployment, we needed to do something to provide a more robust service for our job seekers and our employers. And after a study, we implemented a tool called Geographic Solutions called Virtual One Stop, which basically breaks down the brick and mortar walls for job seekers and employers. It allows you to use the system from the confines of your house to look for work, to create resumes, it allows employers to put job orders in, see what kind of clients are out there, candidates are out there for the positions that they have. Job seekers enter skill sets, and when jobs are posted, the system automatically matches the skills posted with the skills required, and will send emails or texts to the job seekers that new positions have been posted that they might be interested in. This by itself demands internet access and digital literacy to be able to log in, get into the system, learn how to navigate and use these tools. The system also has a feature called spidering, which means crawling the internet, and it spiders over 627,000 jobs that are available right now in California and within a 50-mile radius of California. These jobs are all in the system and are available for people to browse and look for and apply for. And again, I mentioned that it sends emails and text messages to job seekers when it finds a match that they might be interested in. So this has also permitted us to serve a lot more people without having to increase the number of facilities that we have or the amount of staff that we have, and hence the name Virtual One Stop. It's truly a wonderful tool. The state of California is now in the process of implementing the same tool. Last year, they implemented the first component of it for labor exchange, matching jobs with job seekers. And the state of California is now using this tool to send out text messages and emails to those folks, informing them of positions, but also informing them of the statuses of the system, when it's going to be down, changes that they're making to it, things of that nature. So again, another example of how digital literacy and internet access is a key component of today's workforce environment in California and across the nation. It's not limited to California. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. If you have any questions later, I'll be more than happy to. I can stick around for a few minutes afterwards. But it's a dynamic environment, and I'm glad to be part of it. So thank you.
Edward, thank you for your comments. I think that an appropriate conclusion to our panel discussion is the woman responsible for making digital literacy education a priority through partnerships throughout California, focusing on vulnerable populations who are often overlooked when it comes to digital literacy, and generally helping to create the education framework through which many agencies can find themselves or find a place for themselves in digital literacy. So I'm pleased to introduce Veronica Ortiz-Torres, who's the Deputy Director of Digital Education for the California Department of Technology.
Thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate it. And thank you to the panelists as well. What I've heard, and what I'm sure you've heard as well, and it's speaking to the choir, but it's about the partnerships and the collaborations. And it is so critical in this realm. And I'm fortunate enough to be a part of working with many of you and many of the folks that are here, but to continue to promote and foster the good work that's being done in the state of California. That's my job, and I enjoy it, and I look forward to continuing in doing that. I don't know about you, but a lot of the folks that I've heard right away, I start thinking, okay, I've got to connect with that person because of this or that, and so it just starts that thought process, and that's what this job is about, is thinking outside the box. Fortunate enough to be here in state service working on what I call the soft side of technology. I am by no means a technology guru. I am not techie, but I know how to bring folks together to the table to have those discussions and to further the plans that have been laid out so well. Sometimes it's just, it's the terminology that's used and the way one interprets it that we just need to tweak it a little bit to further it down the road, and I enjoy that, and that's been my mission thus far. And as Director Ramos mentioned earlier, at Technology, we're really trying to do some different things. We've done the apps and the geo-portal and things of that sort, but in our unit, we've been able to work on getting out there in digital literacy, digital education, but digital education not in terms of Common Core, because there are experts for that. We're looking at it in terms of once they get that item, that iPad, that tablet, how are they being instructed on how to use it? Do they know how to turn it on? Do they know how to use a mouse? Who's getting it, who's not? And the have-nots are even more so now. So as we look at Common Core and moving that forward, we've got to make sure that that population is being addressed and that they're being properly taught how to use them, that they have connectivity. There are so many regions that do not have it, and for a number of different reasons, but we've got the folks here in this room that can make a difference, that can make that happen in these collaborative fashions. And so I'm thrilled to be a part of this. I'm thrilled to be here and to be able to have these conversations. That's why I think the summit is just fantastic, because it's, there's, as I said, folks you're going to meet that are going to trigger a thought where you think, I need to connect with that person. One of those for me was FirstNet funding. I thought, we need to talk. There's some projects I'm working on that I'm thinking really will be of value. I'm not going to reiterate the facts. A lot of the things that have been said, I think we all know. We all share that information, so we know those things. But what I will talk about are some of the projects that we've started. I've been in this position for a year. Carlos was creative and innovative enough to see that there was a need for this in technology department. What I'm working on are just some of those fun things that include what you're working on. For example, we have a project that we originally called it Youth to Youth. It's a pilot project, and Prison Industries had a business plan to teach computer refurbishing and recycling. But there were a few glitches. They had to figure out certifications with Department of Toxic Substance Control. There was Cal Recycle, was a little hesitant about, having these surplus computers go into that stream. So we were able to get folks to the table to have those discussions and to figure out how we move that forward. So now it's part of Prison Industry through Youth Authority, their business plan. So they're providing the training for soon-to-be-released youth inmates that once they're released, they get certification processes and how to recycle and refurbish, thereby making them marketable. Those are then going to nonprofit for distribution to Title I free lunch program recipients. We've included in that digital literacy components to that and spoken to foundations about, okay, the population that's going to be the recipients of these may not understand the value of it because they don't understand the value of the connectivity. Let's see what we can do to provide that for them for, even a brief period of time, even 3 months to see, so that way they understand the value of that. But it's not only those kids with free lunch, it's the family, economic development. It's the family that could really utilize those as well, because as their kids are looking to go to, college, it's figuring out how you apply, where are the scholarships, how do you do that process, DMV, registration, so they don't have to get on 3 buses to go and register, a vehicle that's sitting there that they can barely drive because of the price of gas or what have you. I mean, as I said, I'm singing to the choir, so you know this. But this is a pilot project that we're working on that, when we first started this, we thought, this is awesome. 17,000 computers were accounted for in state service. Because of the lack of refresh, being 5 to 7 years with the budget, 1% could be refurbished. So we ended up with less than 100. And so that was just, you talk about bursting your bubble. I mean, we thought this is awesome, all of these surplus computers. So what I did is I started talking to other entities, and Google came to the table and said, hey, let's talk about giving out brand new Chromebooks. We'll give you 500 brand new Chromebooks. You guys tell us how you're going to distribute them. Let's talk about this. So it's, something positive came from that. It kind of segued into this. So, and this is something that happened the last couple of weeks. So we're in the process of having discussions with those partners, with those public-private partnerships to figure out that distribution. And they said, this can be the first of many discussions, but I'm still talking to them about their surplus computers or their surplus Chromebooks, because I'd like to be able to still get those into the stream for Prison Industries or Youth Authority to figure out their component and how they continue to do that training and that certification. So it's that outside-the-box kind of thinking. Some of this has been done, but we're trying to figure out how do we do this so it can be replicated in a city, county level. We enjoy having those discussions. Another project that Carlos spoke about earlier was the state fair. there was a new general manager brought on board, and he said, we've got to do something creative here. It's stagnant. The fair is just, it's not a draw. So how do we do this? Well, for one, they have no infrastructure. There's no connectivity at the state fair. How do you do a state fair with Silicon Valley in our backyard and not have connectivity and not have, some infrastructure? In addition to that, if it's going to be used for emergency services, you need connectivity there. You need to have that there. And it's not just the state fair, it's the county fairs. So we started having that discussion, went and met with folks in Silicon Valley and said, this may not be on your radar, but we need to have these discussions. How do we make this relevant? How do we change this up? So we're in the middle of having those discussions and figuring out how we're going to do that and bring Wi-Fi and connectivity to Cal Expo. But what evolved from that as well is, if our Silicon Valley, if our technology is looked at nationwide, why aren't we celebrating that as our best of in State Fair? Why isn't there an award or something that is done that enables folks to look at California and say, wow, that's really cool? So we designed a Champion of Technology Award. This is going to be the first one this year. Friday, it's May 2nd, so there's a quick turnaround, but there's a lot of there is food for thought. Think about that, and think about, I'm sure there have been differences made here in the state of California that you have been a part of. It's a self-nomination. So please send that in. My information, I think it was back there, but my information is there. So I invite you all to think about these creative ways that we can help to promote and foster as well. That's our job. That's my job. I want to be able to talk about the good things that are being done and to figure out some of these collaboratives where they're needed. That's what I'm doing, and as I'm listening to each of the folks here speak, I will be contacting you and some of those ideas that we throw out. But I thank you for your listening ear. I know we were running late, and we're getting close to lunchtime, so people are probably getting hungry. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your innovation. And please, if there's anything that we can do to help you out in your promoting and fostering, we're here for you.
Great, thank you, Veronica. And that's an appropriate note to wind things up. I think there's two audiences we need to communicate to when it comes to digital literacy. One are those who aren't online, and so making sure we're using grassroots efforts to find them. And also Silicon Valley, because I can guarantee they're throwing away a lot of computers, so if we can get them down to you. So let's take that and edit that part of the video. So Google, Facebook, I know you've refreshed your computers about once a year, so. Well, I don't know, do we have time for questions? I'm going to look for guidance, or?
I think we have to
Nope.
go right to the
All right,
award.
we are wrapping up. If you have questions, feel free to ask any of us after the panel.
Thank you very much, Christina and panel members. Excellent panel. Okay, so now we've reached the time on our agenda where we're going to be going ahead and presenting the Link America Foundation Awards. So with that, I would like to give a little bit of information on that, and I will be introducing Cheryl Blakely. So these are the foundation's highest honor and are awarded to individuals whose outstanding leadership and personal dedication advances technology serving humanity in the areas of life, information, network, and knowledge. So it is my honor to introduce Cheryl Blakely. And Cheryl, who is presenting the awards, has a distinguished career, experience focused in areas of human and social services. Her career includes assignments in executive positions for 4 governors in California, including administration of several women's correctional and rehabilitation programs under Governor Jerry Brown. She was executive director of the Crittenden Center for Los Angeles, a full-service nonprofit children's group home providing residential care for pregnant young women and their infants. As Director of Public Affairs at Blue Cross of California, she was responsible for the company's corporate communications program, media relations, product promotion and marketing, and sales support. She currently serves as a Commissioner, Community Services at the City of La Quinta, California, as well as Anthem Blue Cross of California, and is a member of the Consumer Advisory Board. So with that, I'd like to introduce Cheryl Blakely. Thank you.
Thank you. Myself and Dave Levier, we're representing Link America's Foundation. It's be brief. We know you're hungry. We know it's the end. It's been a fantastic, fantastic summit. So, Cecilia Aguiar Curry, I think we'll have you come up. Mayor Curry, she is being awarded the Life Award. She is the mayor of Winters, and she initiated a broadband education project for her city, which has 62% Hispanic students, 35% Caucasian, and 2% other. As you know, rural areas such as Winters suffer from broadband connections and the kind of digital literacy we've been talking about all morning. Through a partnership with the Yucca Dene Winton Nation Community Fund, Ms. Aguiar Curry got a grant of $240,000 to the school district to create broadband access and equipment for grades 2 to 5. When they launched it, not only did the parents come, all the grandparents came, and everyone is involved now in the city of Winters. Congratulations.
I thank you very much.
Would you like to say anything?
Hold on.
I don't want you to hold on tight.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I would like to say something. I can't begin to thank everybody for the acknowledgement on this. It has been said over and over today about partnerships, collaboration, leadership, and passion. And so one thing I do have is passion for my community. But I couldn't have done any of this without a gentleman by the name of Brian Horn, who started Winters Broadband in Winters, who taught me about broadband and the importance of it and what it would do for schools and what it would do for my economic development in my city. But I also need to thank Tara Thornton. Tara has been instrumental with the region in teaching me more about broadband than I thought I'd ever want to know about. But there's also people that were here today that are very powerful that came to Winters. And we had a YOLO Leaders Forum, and from Sonny McPeak showed up, Ann Neville, Adelina Zendejas, Rob Osborne, Robert Say. They all believed in my community. Also, on a local level, Chairman McKay from the Ochadihi tribe, not only did they give us $230,000 or $50,000, the total now is over $600,000. I now have iPads and computers from kindergarten through high school and our continuation school. The PTA was instrumental. The PTA has gotten parents to show up and want to know about technology. They are now expecting technology in Winters. I have to thank also Patty Wong, the librarian. I mean, if it wasn't for the library, I wouldn't even have some computers for kids to get on. We have the LAFCO is doing a strategic plan for broadband, Christine Crawford. Yolo County Housing, we're going to put computers in the housing authorities. So as you can tell, this is a real passion for my community. It has opened the doors for so many things to happen. I also want to kind of acknowledge a woman I just met, and she's fabulous. Her name is Pat Furr. She's out of Chico. She does computers for classrooms. Those extra computers, if you have them, send her way. She has a warehouse full of them, and she refurbishes and reuses those and gives those to students in classes and low-income families, senior citizens, for $85. They're fully loaded with Microsoft products. They're plug and play. And lastly, I just want to say is to thank Sunny. You know, Sunny has been instrumental in giving me the leadership skills to move this project forward in Winters. Particularly the new project we're working on is a school-to-home program, and it's going to help transform my community and help with the close the digital divide, our economic divide, as well as our opportunity divide. PG&E is now looking to come to Winters. Who would have thought that 5 years ago? I now have Trish Kelly, who's here, who's talked about economic development. We have an agricultural hub that we're working on to gather the data and making sure that we can maybe have a sustainable ag hub. And so today, based on all the speakers that are here, I wanted to just tell you that I love this job. and it's like a puzzle to me. So I'm missing a couple pieces, so I thought I'd ask Jared, can we find some funding in our library for extended hours so kids that don't have internet in the meantime, that they can go sit down into the library on a hot day when the library is closed, or an evening when it's closed? Dr. Adams, my district is short of funding to get my school-to-home program going. I only need $40,000, and I could help backfill a teacher so I could have the school-to-home program work. So as you know, I'm not going to give up. I want to thank everybody for the acknowledgement, and basically, my job's never done. Thank you very much for the acknowledgement. Thank you so much. I won't.
Thank you. Our next award, Information Award, goes to Gary Page. Thank you, Gary. Gary has shown exceptional leadership at the California Department of Education, promoting the importance of digital literacy. He's been a conduit to districts around the state, informing them of the importance of digital literacy, K-14, in the skills necessary for workforce and career development. He has been awesome. Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
And I'd just like to say thank you to the Link Americas Foundation and all the fine work that you've done for years now, and also for the transformation that's taking place in California, because it's working together that we'll be able to transform education in our state. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, the N is for network, and that goes to Jesse Knight, Executive Vice President of External Affairs for Sempra Energy, and accepting on his behalf is Mitch Mitchell, Vice President, State Government Affairs, Sempra Energy Utilities. Welcome. Mr. Knight, instrumental in providing corporate leadership to advance digital literacy by using social media and outreach tools in the San Diego community. He has used Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, PSAs, and local television media. And he created and implemented Please Conserve Energy, the energy campaign, in both English and Spanish. They've been very important in supporting the Job Scout outreach and helping us with English and Spanish in the libraries in the San Diego region. Mitch, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On behalf of Jesse Knight and the entire Sempra Energy family, we just want to tell you how much we appreciate the award. I will say just a couple of comments. We were a slow adapter when it comes to technology. Like most big companies, we kind of shunned it. And I remember having conversations with Jesse years ago saying, by the time we get a Facebook page or a Twitter page, they'll be long gone. So we'll be the only company that has one, and everybody else will just laugh at us. And so it is ironic that we are now receiving this award. Once we adapted this into the new age, it has really worked well for us. And I will say that we use it now to do everything from promoting energy conservation to telling people when outages are happening, when their lights are going to be back on, and talking about upcoming energy conservation events. I get a page, an email every day that tells me all the tweets that have come in about us. So we've really come a long way. And I will say this about Job Scout. We believe that energy is a key component of economic development in the state of California. And and that's why it was so rewarding for us to be a part of Job Scout, because we believe that we have a role to play in not only keeping business in California, but luring business to California and connecting people to the jobs that are within those businesses. And so the Job Scout opportunity was wonderful, and we are a diverse community in our service area and in California. So Spanish, providing the information in Spanish and English was the first step. There are a bunch of other languages that we need to adapt to, and we've become much more aggressive about translation because we serve everyone, and not everyone speaks the same language, and we want everyone, though, to be able to utilize technology to see where their opportunities are. So thank you on behalf of Sempra.
Thank you. Okay, and the K for knowledge. The award is going to Cammie Griffiths. She's Executive Director of the Community Technologies Network in San Francisco. Accepting on her behalf is Crystal Schimpf, Community Technology Director of Training and Programs. Now, let me tell you, it's a small group. They started 6 years ago, but it packs a big punch. They work in the whole Bay Area. They work with senior centers, other digital literacy. They train volunteers. The volunteers go out and work with everybody in the community centers that we were talking about earlier who have no access. In 2013, 143 volunteer trainers have given over 6,500 hours to help more than 8,700 people improve their computer skills. She told me earlier, one of the gentlemen, he is a poet, and he has now put his poetry on Tumblr.
Well, thank you. This is a real honor for us, and we're happy to be here as a part of this summit. It's been great to hear all the conversations about digital literacy and the importance of digital literacy in closing the digital divide, that digital gap. And, you know, our mission really is to transform lives through digital literacy, and we see that change in many ways. So thank you, Link America's Foundation, for this award. It's an honor, and thank you all.
Thank you. In closing, Dave and I just want to say, if you haven't been on the Job Scout site, please do so. It's incredible. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you up there. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Cheryl, and congratulations to all the recipients of the awards. Wow, exciting. Just in closing, I had come up with a couple of words to talk about and things, but I think pretty much all our speakers and presenters and moderators have pretty much gone over what you would have heard from me this afternoon. There's a lot of work occurring in our state. We definitely are still a national leader, but we have a long ways to go. And I think each and every one of you are key to us reaching that goal. And that goal is attainable, but we have to learn how to be creative. We have to learn how to look at how we're describing, talking about digital literacy and broadband. We have to educate others because they don't understand what those things mean. We have to look at it from a passionate level, how it's impacting us, how it impacts our families, how it impacts our communities and the lives of everyone in our state. And so with that, I just would like to also say thank you so much to Bill Maley, to Brenda Kempster, and also to Barbara O'Connor, who really helped in putting this event together, who were really instrumental in pulling this whole group together of panelist members and coordinating and partnering with us. I would also like to personally thank our speakers, our keynote speakers, Director Ramos, our moderators, and our panel members for providing such important information and basically touching on a lot of the projects that at this point I think many of you have heard about, and hopefully many of you will take back to your organizations and talk about these projects. And also, as Veronica had mentioned earlier, if there's any way that any of us can be of any help from a state perspective, from Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy or Office of Digital Education, please know that we are there to help. We're there to partner. We're there to form these collaborations, these relationships that are so key for this critically important effort to continue and move forward. Our information is also available. There's table on the side, so please pick up information regarding, it'll have contact information, but you can also go out to our Department of Technology website, which is www.cio.ca.gov. And so just in just in some last minute comments, I would just like to say that the number one benefit of information technology is that it empowers people to do what they want to do. It lets us be creative. It lets people be productive. It lets people learn things that they didn't think that they could learn before. And so in a sense, it also is about potential. And we all have that potential. We can all give that potential to all of those to assist us in moving this critical initiative forward. And so I thank you today for attending. I thank you for this effort really being a passion to you as it is to us, and as I know that it is to Brenda, and also definitely to Ann, and all of the speakers, Barbara. And so, again, thank you so much, and have a great day.